Already pressed it.
Was asked.
A very good evening to all the amazing folks present today. Here we are in a fun and interactive session of Flutter Festival 2022. Are you guys ready? I can see the responses. So we'll move forward to the event. So I'm Garima Saroj, your host for today's evening and a core team member of the Google Developer Students Club at AKGC. Now, moving forward with the session, do you people know about organizing GDSCs of today? Today's session is a collaboration of 5 GDSCs, namely Gdsc Avantika University, Gdsc Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Gdsc Amity University, GDS Mumbai, Gdsc Poornima College of Engineering, and Gdsc Indore Institute of Science and Technology. You people must be aware of what GDSC Flutter Festival is. It is a community-led series of interactive learning events where budding developers and tech enthusiasts can join in to learn the fundamentals of Google technologies, featuring Flutter, Firebase, and Google Cloud content. So, how many of you guys are Flutter developers or app developers already? Do let me know in the comment box right now. Wow, glad to see so many tech geeks among us. I can already see so much enthusiasm in among us from your side. Well, moving forward, apps have already become a basic need of living nowadays. Admit it or not, but all of us rely on various apps in our day-to-day lives. Can we quickly name a few of them? Do comment about some apps that you use in your day-to-day lives. Great. I'm elated to know we have an interactive audience. I think everyone is keen to know what we'll be covering in today's session. Here's a quick gist of what we'll be learning today. Making UI layouts using Flutter, hydrating our app with data coming from Firebase Cloud Firestore, syncing it with backend data, and applying basic navigation strategies in the application. Also, during the session, if you have any doubts or queries, drop them in the comment box and they'll be addressed in the end of the session. So, now let's start by introducing our speaker, Mr. Roman Jaquez, who will be providing us a hands-on learning session about the what, how, and why of Flutter. Mr. Roman Jaquez is a Google developer expert in Flutter as well as a Google Cloud certified architect who loves sharing his passion for Flutter with the wider developer community. He is also lead organizer at GDG Lawrence as well as a GDG mentor for the Northeast in the USA. With 10 plus years of experience as a full stack software engineer, he is also a senior development engineer at Philips Health Systems. He enjoys spreading the word about best practices in the industry, ranging from mobile to web and cloud as well. Apart from technical expertise in various fields, he loves to draw and put his imagination beautifully on paper. Interesting, right? A jovial shout out for the artist in the house. So, the session will be full of learning and pro tips by Roman for an enthralling and beautiful journey of you people in development. Welcome, Roman. We are thrilled to have you here. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. That was an amazing welcome. I'm very touched. Thank you guys for putting this together. Kudos to you for the GDSC that put this together, the whole organizing team. You guys are amazing. Again, I'm really thrilled to be here and we're gonna make this interactive. So welcome everybody for joining and for making time to join this event. I'll make it worth your while. So I'm going to be sharing my screen in just a minute right now. And let me know when you guys see my screen. Just give me a thumbs up on the chat, whenever you can see the screen. Just needed to make sure that everybody is all set and you guys can see the screen so I can proceed. Again, like I said, I'm really pleased to be here. I like the enthusiasm from the audience and you guys being part of this experience. So that's exactly what we want. Oh, the bird, perfect. I'm gonna be also letting you know about that specific little guy there. So uh, let me know when you can see, for example, if you can see the camera. This is one, the things that I want to share with you guys. I'm gonna try to share my the screen again. If not, what I can do is I can do because I think I'm having a little bit of an issue here. Just bringing up the screen. Let me just bring this up. Just a second. Still nothing. You guys haven't been able to see it. I'm going to. Yeah, the screen is not visible. It's still the guy. Okay, perfect. So let me try. Okay, let me try stopping the camera and then I'm gonna start again. So just let me show. Ah, yes, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties on this end, but don't worry, guys. We'll get those resolved, and we're gonna start in just a minute. Again, this is something that I'm gonna share with you guys. This is a Snapchat lens that I created. If you want to use it in your own conferences and whatnot, it's gonna be amazing because you guys can use it as well. It's completely free. I'm gonna be sharing that in just a minute. I just wanted to get uh, you know, the sharing right now. So I see the Akshat, can you check whether I do have permissions to share my screen? For some reason, it's telling me that I could try also like a tab, like a window. Let me know if you guys could also see that. So I'm gonna see. It says like I'm gonna try maybe another. Okay, I'll try another screen to do it because for some reason it says that Chrome lost permission to share the screen. So I'm gonna try doing it again. Just give me just a minute because I can try with another browser, for example. For you guys can see me, right? Perfect. The only thing that I need to do is just make sure that in the system preferences, like I do have those capabilities. For some reason, like it wasn't allowing me to. But at least I'm glad that you guys are there, are hanging in there, and allowing me to, like to share the screen and all that. So I'm going to just take a look at the. Yeah, no screen yet. Perfect. That's fine. I'm going to be just making some tweaks here on my end just to make sure that you guys can see it. Perfect. And thank you for hanging in there. It's just like the capabilities of my screen are not allowing me to. So I'm going to try one more time. And then I see that, okay, do you mind if I drop off for a minute and then come right back in? I am going to take yeah, I'm going to show another screen. So just let me just drop off in 1 minute and then I'm coming right back. Sorry about that, guys. Let me just come right back.
Sure. Yeah.
Just hang on, guys. He'll be back right away.
Hi, Roman.
Yes.
Are you able to share your screen now?
I'm gonna try one more time. For some reason, again, like I don't know why Chrome was like failing right at the last minute. Sorry about that, guys. I am going to try. See, it keeps saying that like for some reason StreamYard is having an issue in like enabling Google Chrome, but I do presentations every day, and particularly today it was failing. So I apologize, guys, for that inconvenience. I'm going to take a look at my system preferences in my Mac. I'm using a Mac. So again, it shouldn't be, any other issues than, the way that I've done it in the past. So I am going to be just enabling again one more time, just making sure that like the preferences are there. So in the security and privacy, I need to make sure that, yes, so I need to make sure that screen recording is on. So I am going to just enable that. Yeah, for some reason it was saying like it was not allowing me. So I have to quit and reopen, but stay right there, guys. I'll be good. I think we're good now. Can you guys see that?
Could you try sharing the screen again, Roman? Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, it's
Perfect.
visible now.
Now we can see it. Perfect.
Perfect.
That's what it was.
Yes,
So
it's there.
let's start again. And again, apologies for that. Oh my God. That's what I love about, again, live presentations. It always happens. But hey, that's what we're here for, to collaborate and to help one another. So thank you guys for hanging in there and giving me the opportunity. Great. Can you guys hear me now? And can you see the screen finally? So apologies, but yeah. Are we good now? Can you guys see it?
Yes, it's visible.
Perfect. Again, let me reintroduce myself and apologize. Thank you again for the invitation. There were a few technical difficulties, a few hiccups in there, but thank you very much again. Welcome to this session. My name is Roman Jaquez. I am a Flutter GDE. I am a Google certified cloud architect. But just like you guys, you're in a community of developers. I am also a lead organizer at GDG Lawrence. I am very passionate about sharing my knowledge about Flutter. And I just thank you for, again, hanging in there, supporting me morally, as I go through these issues. But we are here to learn. That is exactly the reason why I like to join this type of activity. So thank you very much. Totally appreciate you guys hanging in there. So let's proceed. So these are my social media handles. You guys can follow me there. I have a YouTube channel if you guys want to follow some of the activities and some of the videos that I've put together regarding Flutter. Also, I do Twitch live streaming if you guys want to make fun of me as I make mistakes and while I code. But these are the part of the journey of learning is sharing with others. So I do that. You could also visit me at my portfolio site where I have developed a bunch of applications in Flutter. I do also web, and I've also even developed games and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. And last but not least, you can scan the QR code available in there, and you can follow me on Twitter. That way you can see all the other events that I've been putting together. You see me putting videos about like the code and projects that I've been working on, just so that I can share it with everybody. So thank you. Thank you so much for hanging in there. Yeah, some people were asking about the little guy that is hanging on my shoulder. This is a Snapchat lens that I created specifically for these type of events that you can just you can scan the snap code on your screen and you can use it for yourselves. You can just make quick and cool videos with that. You can use it in your presentations, in your conferences. You have to download the Snap Camera application, and you can scan the QR code, and then you'll have this little guy as a Snapchat filter for your presentations, just like this one. So it's called I Love Flutter. I created it for you guys with all the love. Thank you so much. So you can just scan that, and you can have that available as well. I just wanted one quick prompt from the user, just like you guys were given earlier. So I just wanted a quick audience prompt. Just wanted to see, what do you guys do after work or after studies? What do you focus on? Just leave me in the chat, in the comments, either a +1, +2, 3, or 4, whatever applies to you. What do you do after your studies or after work or whatever you do? Do you work on a side project? You just relax and forget about coding? You do a little bit of both, or you do other things like, you engage in some sort of hobby, or you just, you like to work on side projects. You're learning something else. What are you doing? I see a lot of people. Great. I love the fact that you see a little bit of both. I am myself exactly that. I not only focus on coding, and you see that I after work I do like side projects, but I like to engage in other things like hobbies and whatnot. I said that I like to draw. I help my wife like creating a children's book. You see, stuff like that is what kind of completes you and makes you whole. So I'm glad that a lot of people are finding other things to do and engaging. Of course, you want to be passionate about programming and coding in general, but you could do other things. I like to also do like side gigs and side projects and whatnot. So thank you everybody for joining in the audience prompt. And one last thing, now that we are here to all share Flutter in one word, what does Flutter mean to you? I just want to know, the reason why you're here is because Flutter means to me what? In one single word, what could you say? Just whatever comes to your mind. It could be anything. No wrong answers. What does Flutter mean to you? I just wanted to hear from people. Maybe why do you want to learn Flutter? Like in just one word, what do you think about that? Some people say apps. Some people say UI. Thank you so much, guys. SDK. So whatever comes to your mind as far as like what Flutter is. To me, Flutter means future. Why? Because Flutter is a great framework for developing applications that can transcend multiple platforms, and you can use one single code base to target all those platforms. And then Flutter is growing in a great momentum. A lot of people are learning it. There's a great community of that. Yes, multi-platform apps. That's something that comes to mind as well. I'm gonna be mentioning that. Yeah, I see. She's Usha. You say best platform to develop hybrid apps. Not just one word, but many words, and I love that anyway. So yes, thank you everybody for sharing. Keep sharing, guys. new opportunity. I like that. So keep sharing your thoughts about that, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing here in just a minute. So again, if you're here, that is exactly why we're all here, is because of Flutter. And like some of you already mentioned in the comments, Flutter is a Google UI toolkit for developing beautiful and natively compiled user interfaces from one single code base. So we're using Dart as the programming language and Flutter as the framework to target multiple platforms, such as mobile, embedded, desktop, web. And it's such an amazing time to join the Flutter movement, because you can do so many things with Flutter. You have a lot of opportunities, again, to build great interfaces, and that's what we're going to be doing for us. So again, the Flutter is the framework, Dart is the programming language. So don't get confused with that, because when we are learning Flutter, we will be learning Dart at the same time. Also, we're all here because me, as a cloud architect, Google certified cloud architect, I am very passionate about the cloud, and I will give you tips for you. Yes, you right now, you will be able to implement backends, serverless backends on the Google Cloud for free without having to pay or anything. You can use the Firebase and like the Google Cloud with without having to pay, and you can use it within the free tier, and you can pair it up with your Flutter applications to build very robust applications. Today, at the end of this session, you will leave, if you haven't done it, you will leave with some tangible assets. You're going to be able to create your own Firebase project, and you will be able to create a simple application that connects to Firebase, and you can have robust serverless applications on top of the Google Cloud. So I hope you are as excited as me. Yes, Shashank, you say Firebase as a backend. That is correct. Firebase has a bunch of features, a lot of features that will allow you to do that. And what we're going to be focusing on today is Firebase as a backend, as a NoSQL database. So we will be dealing with that in a minute. Yes, robust apps. Why? Because there are many things that you can implement in the Firebase ecosystem, and we're going to be detailing some of those in just a minute. So let's proceed with the presentation. And yes, as a token of my appreciation to some of you guys joining, I will be raffling two $25 Amazon gift cards. So I wish you all luck. At the end of this session, the organizing team will be collecting your emails, whether maybe via a form or something, but we will be collecting emails from you guys, and I will be raffling two $25 Amazon gift cards, again, as my appreciation for you guys joining this event. So thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned for that. At the end, we'll be raffling those two $25 Amazon gift cards for two lucky winners. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Let's proceed. So how to participate in this workshop. So I'm going to be providing a code lab that I custom created for this specific event that you will be able to follow along. So I'm going to be providing that in just a minute right now. And I will drop it in the chat so that you can follow along. Again, I will be showing you, I will be doing this. I believe I don't know if the team can copy this and then or I can just submit it via, because I would have loved to also drop it in the comment. But at least I want people to, I will send it to you, Akshat. I will just reply to you so that you can drop it in the chat. This is the link that I want folks to have in there. So if you can drop it in the chat so that people can follow along, let me know if you got it. Not yet. Yes, we'll be providing that. We'll be dropping it in the link. I just sent it to Akshat. He will be able to drop it in the chat, maybe pin it somehow. But you will be able to follow along in this workshop, and you will see how developing an application in Flutter, pairing it up with a Firebase. We're going to start, first we're going to start with Firebase, and then we're going to proceed to do the Flutter application. So you will be seeing the link being dropped, or again, like I said, you can proceed to, yes, just wait just a minute where I can also drop it here. and then the organizing team can just drop it in there. But otherwise, you can just copy it from there. You will see it.
Yeah, just
Perfect. Yes. So I dropped it in the private chat. Yes, in the chat. There it is. So thank you very much, guys. That is the link to the code lab. So this code lab was custom created for this precisely for this event, and then you will be able to follow along. Make sure that you are at the step number 1 on that exactly. Thank you. So if you do that, now you will be able to follow along in this code lab. So let me just escape out of this presentation, and now we're ready to code. So what am I asking from you? So copy the link that has been provided in the chat right now, and you will drop it in your browser. So it will look like this. And now I will explain a little bit of what we will be doing. So in this workshop, we will be building a community page. This is a page that will be powered by the community. So this is a application that you will be building right now. You won't have to be installing everything, installing anything, because we will be using Darpad. Darpad is something that you guys can even use on your own. It's a web-based Flutter IDE that allows you to learn Flutter in the browser. Don't know if some of you have used it in the past, but I will show you. So if you go to darpad.dev, I will show you also in a minute right here. Darpad.dev is a web-based IDE that allows you to code in Flutter without having to install anything. So we will be using Darpad if you want to follow along, and you will have the code lab on one side as well. So let's do exactly that. So I am going to move my code lab to one side of the screen, just like this, right? And you will have Darpad on another side, just like this. So first, I just wanted to show you how Darpad works. But then we will proceed then to do Firebase, because this is what the intention and this code lab is all about. Flutter as a front end and Firebase as a back end. So if we see what we're going to be building, this is a workshop where we will be building a 3-page application where it has like a splash screen, a landing page, and then a community, what I call a community meter page. It's like a widget, a very custom widget that we will be building. I will show you that in a minute. Don't fret. This is something that we will be doing. So now let's proceed in showing you the code lab. So in the code lab, this is step number 1. We overview what is it that we will be building. We're going to be building a Flutter application, connecting it to Firebase and Cloudfirestore. Thank you for dropping also the link about darpad.dev. Great. So the prerequisites for this code lab are pretty much you having a browser and an internet connection, preferably Chrome, and then of course using Darpad, because this is the web-based IDE open source tool that offers kind of like an online playground for Dart and Flutter. So this is step number 2. Let's go to step number 3. In step number 3, I'm going to show you how you launch Darpad. So Darpad is this Flutter editor that I am using, and in step number 3, I am showing you how to launch Darpad for the first time. So you can use it in your own projects as well. This is only web-based. It doesn't get saved. I'm going to be answering some of the Firebase questions in just a minute, but let me finish with Darpad. So with Darpad, the way that you launch Darpad is you go to the top left corner. There is a button that says New Pad right next to the logo. You click here where it says New Pad, and then you can create a new pad. What it does, it creates a little bit of a sandbox for you to develop Flutter in the cloud, in this editor. So if you click Flutter, and then you click create, then you get a new environment and you get some boilerplate code in here, but then you can, whatever you type in here on the left-hand side and you click on run here on this blue button, you will be able then to see whatever you're coding. And that is exactly what we will be doing today. So we will be creating a Firebase project, and then we will hook it up to an application here in Darpad. So is everybody ready to start? I am more than ready. I am very excited. Again, like I said, everybody is going to leave here with a Firebase project that you can use not only in this sample application, but even in your production applications. I will show you how to do that in just a minute. So now let's proceed to the next step. You see, remember in this step number 3, I show you how to launch Dartpad. Very simple. Now let's continue to step number 4. So in step number 4, this is where I explain about Firebase. So Firebase is a suite of tools that is offered by Google, where you can have like you can use it to build applications, very robust applications, living on top of the Google Cloud. So Firebase has a bunch of great features that allows you like for this type of capabilities, and that is exactly what I'm going to be showing you now. So we're going to be creating a brand new project in Firebase, because Firebase is, again, this console that will allow you to create like databases. You will be able to create you will be able to create like authentication, and all of that is really cool. All of the things that you could create with Firebase. So without further ado, let's proceed and build that project. So I'm going to do that right now for you guys. Let's all proceed to Firebase Console. So in step number 4, I give you a link to this page right here, console.firebase.google.com. So I'm going to drop it in the chat also. The team will be able to hand me that as well. So I'm going to be launching console.firebase.google.com. So whenever you go to this link, this is the Firebase console. This is where you create for the first time a Firebase project. Remember, Firebase is just a suite of features. You get authentication, you get storage, you can manage cloud functions. You can do, of course, the Firestore database, which is what we will be doing. So imagine, like for some of you who asked earlier, yes, Firebase allows you to build like your whole backend pretty much that powers your application. So let's proceed. If you see in the code lab, I'm in step number 4, so please follow along. If you are, I am in step number 4. And then the first thing that we will be doing is create a project. If you don't have a project created, your page will look like this. It's a blank page right there, right here, where it says like, welcome to Firebase, no projects at all. And the first thing that you will do is click on this button that says create project. So I am going to hit create project. The first thing that it asks you is a couple of steps. And then the first that it asks you is the name for your project. So you can put anything to your name as long as it is a unique name. So I'm going to say Gdsc, let's say, for example, like in your particular case, for example, I'm just going to say Gdc app, for example, something like that. And then I'm going to just hit continue. So you make sure that you put a unique name. In your particular case, you could just say whatever, but I'm going to say Gdsc app, and then I'm going to hit continue. Here, then it asks you whether in step number 2, it asks you whether you want to like use Google Analytics. This is not doesn't apply to this project. So I am going to turn off Google Analytics. You don't need that. So then you just see that you don't need anything else. You just needed to put the name of the project and then turn off Google Analytics. And now we're going to be creating the project. So I will hit create project. Very good. And now this is creating in the Google Cloud, provisioning some of the resources that are needed for you to then build, again, a database, set up authentication, and all of that. In today's session, we will only focus on Cloud Firestore, which is the database for connecting to the cloud. So yes, the project is already created. It was very easy. It was just putting the name of the project, turning off Google Analytics, and then now just creating the project. Now I will click continue. And there it is. Now this is the Firebase console through which you can manage all the resources in your project. So if I can show you right here on the left-hand side, if you can expand, like whenever you see it for the first time, you will see it like this. and then you will see a bunch of icons of all the features of Firebase. There is this little chevron on the left-hand side. If you click it, it expands it, and then it shows you all the features that Firebase can offer. At the bottom of the screen, you can see that it says Spark, no cost, $0 a month. That means you're not being charged for anything as long as you are within the free tier. This is the free tier. It gives you a bunch of features, but if you want to, let's say, upgrade, you could do that. And from the no cost $0 a month, you get a bunch of things. But then if you go to the Blaze, you have other things, but even as a pay as you go. So only when you exceed certain quotas, then you start paying. But in this particular one, you don't pay anything. So make sure that you stick within the Spark tier, which is a free tier, no cost, $0 a month. Great. So let me just give a quick overview of what Firebase has to offer. So from top to bottom of the left-hand side, you can see that we have authentication. Authentication allows you for free, you don't have to pay, to create like a level of security for your applications and allow your users to authenticate with third-party providers like Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, email and password, even phone, completely free. You don't have to pay for this, just so that you know. And you can add authentication to your applications and give your users that sense of security. What we will be doing today is Firebase Cloud Firestore, which is for some of you who are familiar with like NoSQL databases. Cloud Firestore is a NoSQL document and collection based database that allows you to store data and sync data. The capabilities that we will be leveraging from Cloud Firestore are the real-time capabilities that allows you to store data and listen to changes and react to those changes. As data gets inserted, you see your applications reacting to that. You can also use it as a regular NoSQL database to store your data. You can do that. Also is available globally. So you have like multi-regional support. You also have offline capabilities. Is very good. Some of you who have heard of MongoDB or like DynamoDB, CouchDB, some of those NoSQL databases, this is one of those. But this one is very robust because it supports a document and collection approach. And I will show you that in a minute as well. Also here in Firebase, you get storage. You can store like blobs of data, your images, sounds, videos, whatever. You can do it. As long as you don't exceed the quota, you can store stuff in here. Also hosting, like you get Firebase hosting. You can deploy mobile and mobile web apps using a secure global content delivery network. It gives you a CDN, makes it very fast to be delivered to your users, and you don't have to pay for this either. You can just deploy your web apps in here. And two of my favorite features of Firebase are Cloud Functions. Cloud Functions are the same. Firebase Functions are the same as Cloud Functions. It's just that you manage it through Firebase. You also get machine learning for that. But one of my favorite features of Firebase is actually, let me go to my my project again, is cloud messaging. Cloud messaging allows you to do like push notifications so that you can engage your users in very, in a very unique manner, in a very direct way as well. So that was it. So we created the project. Now, everybody, if you followed along, congratulations, you have a Firebase project. Now let me show you how it will apply to our project. So I was in step number 4. I hope you all went through step number 4. This is exactly what I did. You see, I created the project and all of that. Perfect. Now, how do we set up Firebase Cloud Firestore? How do we load data in Cloud Firestore? What is it about? So Cloud Firestore, like I mentioned earlier, is a NoSQL, is a very flexible, scalable NoSQL document and collection database to store your data. So it's all based on columns, on collections and documents. It's kind of like in a table, let's say in SQL, you have tables, you have columns, you have rows. In Cloud Firestore, you only deal with collections and documents. A document is nothing more than like a collection of key value pairs. Keys represents the name of your fields, and the values is just the value of your data. Could be like a string, a boolean, another array, and stuff like that. And then a collection is a group of documents. So collections are just groups of documents. A document is just a series of key value pairs. A document cannot have another document, but you can have another collection. A collection can have documents, and then documents can have collections. Collections can have documents, and so on and so forth. That's how you build like a structure in Firebase. Let me show you how to do that. So I am in step number 5 already, and then now we're going to be creating our first database. So let's all follow step number 5 in the code lab. So let me show you. So the first thing that I will do is, like in step number 5, I will go to the Firestore database link on the left-hand side where it says Firestore database. There it is. So now we will create our first database in Firebase called Cloudfirestore. So let's create it. There is a button that says create database. You see, I even put a big arrow so you can find it. I am in step number 5. So let's go and create a database. So when you click there, it asks you whether you want to be in production mode or in test mode. So let's all start in test mode because we're not, in production yet. And you're gonna have, you're only gonna have permission for 30 days. It's just to access the database. After that, then it blocks it for the rest of the world, but it's only available to you. So let's start in test mode. Make sure that you click test mode. Thank you. You just click test mode right there, and then you hit next. So I'm gonna click next. Praful, you asking about Flutter app or Darpad. Of course, a Flutter application, when you do it in Visual Studio Code, is the eventual way that you're going to deploy your application. Darpad is just for us to learn. And from there, you can even grab the code and use it in Visual Studio Code and then publish your application. But Darpad is nothing more than just an environment for us to learn Flutter. You don't deploy anything from there. This is just for us to learn. And Android Studio as well. You can just do that. So yes, production mode versus test mode. Gaurav, you asked that. So the production mode is then that mode that allows you to, if you see it, for example, like it gives you the capabilities of protecting and securing the database so that no other person can access it, and it gives you more capabilities. Test mode just keeps it open for everybody while you're developing your application. So that is the difference between the two modes. And of course, Android Studio, yes, you could also use Android Studio or Visual Studio Code for developing. Right now, Darpad is just as a playground for learning Flutter. Thank you for your questions, guys. Please keep them coming. The next one, again, is the next step now here is where you're going to set up Cloudfirestore to be stored on the Google Cloud. You can pick multiple regions. For example, because we said that Cloudfirestore is a multi-regional database, it makes it available to all your users across the world. That's why if you pick multiple regions, it will be replicated across those regions to make your data available closer to where your users are. So I'm going to leave the default where it says US Central. You can keep it like that as well. And then after that, there is a button that says Enable. So we're going to click where it says Enable. And then now is when the database is getting created in the Google Cloud. So whoever asks you, have you ever dabbled? Have you played with the Google Cloud? Yes, you have, through Firebase, because Firebase, all the resources that Firebase is creating are on top of the Google Cloud. So there it is. Now your Cloudfirestore database is created, but is blank. There's nothing in there. If you see back on step number 5, I show you all that. Then we're done with step number 5. Everybody was able to create a Firebase database. Now I'm going to hit next. And then we're going to set up the initial data in Firebase Cloudfirestore. So we're going to be starting, like I said, collections and documents. Those are the two main things that you can do in Cloudfirestore. The documents are the kind of like the unit of storage of data is a document, but then a collection groups multiple documents. So let's see how we do it. So here in Cloudfirestore, I hope everybody's here. If you're following along, just make sure that on the left-hand side, you click here where it says Firestore database, and then you see the database. So let me expand this a little bit so that you can see it. So now the way that you can start is with a collection. Remember, a collection is a group of documents. So here there is a, in the Cloudfirestore environment, there is a button that says Start Collection. So you're going to click here to create your first collection. So you tap on that link, and then you can start a collection. So the first thing that you do is adding a collection ID. So a collection ID is just the name for your collection. So yes, so Varat, you asked production mode versus test mode. Yes, so production mode, test mode is just for when you're building your application. Then production mode is it protects your database. Nobody accesses it but you. Only the users maybe that authenticate with your application can access the production version of the data. But you do test mode while you're playing with the data, while you're manipulating it and building your application. You are in test mode. Perfect. Great. So let's proceed. So let me start again. So I'm going to click here where it says Start Collection. So those of you just do test mode, keep it in the US Central region, and then hit enable, and then you get to this point. Great. So after you see that, then you click Start Collection because we're going to be creating the first collection. So click Start Collection, and then you give your collection an ID. In our case, I'm going to say, for example, team. You could put any names. You could call it anything. You could call it, GDSC team, for example. I'll call it like this. GDSC team. You could call it like that. You could call anything. Then after you put your collection ID, you just hit next. And then no collection can be without a document in Firebase Cloud Firestore. You could have a single document, but that is the reason why collections are there, to hold documents. If you don't have any documents, then you kind of like, no reason to have a collection because there's nothing to query pretty much. Yes. So now you can do like document ID. So now when you created the collection, it prompts you to create your first document. So just like in, let's say, SQL Server, if you've heard of that, like a table is like a collection of rows. A row contains the information about, let's say, your users or the information that you're holding within that table. A document is just a group of key and values. But you need to identify your document with a unique ID. That's how you can query documents out of a collection, by a unique ID. So I'm going to click Auto ID, and that gives me just a very unique document ID, just like a random ID. And then if you want to build your document, you just add keys and values. So I am going to scroll down, and then if you see, it shows me how to create my first document. And then you use the Auto ID to create that unique ID for that document. Then this is showing you how you add fields to your document. So remember, you created a collection. Now we're adding a document, and then to a document, you just add keys and values. So let's try that. So you can add, for example, like as an example, those three fields that are there. For example, you can start doing like full name, and then remember, fields can have multiple types. You can have string types, numbers, booleans, maps, arrays, a bunch of types. I'm going to keep it as a string, and then I'm going to say, Roman Jaquez. That is my full name. You can use your name. You can use whatever you want. The next, you can add more fields just by clicking on the button that says Add Field. And then, for example, I'm going to say, photo URL, for example. And then you can find any photo out there. I'm going to find, like, for example, here, like in my profile on GitHub, I'm going to grab like my image. You see stuff like that. You can grab anything. I'm going to just grab the, like this link, and then I'm going to use it as my photo URL, for example. You can use anything. You can just type anything in there. It's just that I wanted to show you how you can do, Gaurav asks, SQL is a database. That is correct. So SQL is called structured query language, and it's typed like a database. This is like a database, but it doesn't follow that same structure like relationships between tables and whatnot. This is mostly like a imagine like a JSON collections and documents. So this is pretty much it. And then you can add other fields to it. For example, like a title, you could say like title, and then I'm going to say like organizer. You see, you add multiple fields to your document. I can say age, and then I'll say like, 35, something like that, anything. So you see, you create documents inside of a collection. And then after you're done creating your document, adding fields, and keys and values to your document, you just hit save. After you click save, you will see now a collection being added with one document with one unique ID. And here you see all the fields. You can edit the fields. You can just tap here on the document, and then you can just say 100, and then it gets updated. You see, it's very cool. So you can just update the values in here. For example, I just find somebody in there, Sagar Gupta, for example. Like I just made you famous, Sagar. So and then I say update, and then you see how like I can update the information in a document. So you see, I created a collection. To that collection, I'd add a document. To a document, I don't add another document, but I can add another collection. For example, here I can click here and I say add start collection. I can add another collection, for example, like contacts. You see, I added a collection, then one document, then to that document, I'm adding another collection. So if I add that collection to the document, you see it asks me for a document. So I add a document ID, and here, for example, I say, phone, and then, some phone, whatever, like that. You see, but now I'm showing you how you can build structures in Cloud Firestore by adding a collection. You add a document, then to the document, you can add the fields, or you can add more collections, just like the one that we created. You can add more documents, like I said, to that collection. Look, make sure that whenever you add more documents to one single collection, all the documents follow the same schema, or the same type of the same number of fields and the same type of values. So like the same type. For example, you need to make sure that it also called full name. I'm going to add my name again. That you add another field called photo URL, and then you can add anything in there. And then here you add as a field, for example, like a title also, make sure. And then, for example, when you say like age, remember I said like you need to change it to a number because it is a type of number. And then you say, for example, like I said, 25, and then you save it. If you go back over here, you saw that the age was actually made as a string. This would be a problem in the future. Why? Because these two documents then don't have the same type of field. This one is a number, while this is a string. The way that you do it, you either edit the field and then just change it to the type that it should be, and then you add the proper value. Something like that. You see? Perfect. So if you see it, that is correct. So creating collections is very easy. And Shark says that my age is 100. That was funny. Yeah, I mean, you can put anything. It's pretty much. But you see how easy it is? You add collections, and collections are kind of like tables. And then inside of collections, you add documents, which are kind of like rows inside of a table. And you can add it, you can continue adding like that. So it's pretty cool. So that's why I like Cloud Firestore. And that's it. So it's very simple. You add collections, you add a bunch of documents, and you see I have 2 documents so far. And then you see that I have, and then, for example, like you don't like a document, you can like delete it, and stuff like that. You can just come over here and say delete a document, and then you delete your document. Right here, you can delete a collection, and then it gets rid of that collection. I'm going to pick somebody's other name from the audience just to give you some visibility. So I will say Krupali, I'm going to add you there as another, as another person in my database. So for example, I'm adding two documents with 2 of our attendees. So Varad asks, to add values in MySQL, we have to write a long code, but it's easier to add. Well, if you think you can say it's easier to add because you can just immediately add it right there. That is true. But for example, for SQL, you have to make sure that you install it. You have to manage it. You have to create the relationships. Here is nothing more than documents and collections. And now you will see how you can connect it to, for example, how you can connect this to your Firebase, to your Flutter application. You could also use SQL with Flutter, but then you're going to have to add some sort of a middle tier or like a service to actually pull it straight from Flutter, because Flutter does not pull SQL directly. That is one of maybe the drawbacks. But you're gonna have to create like a backend for that. Here you can call Firebase Firestore straight from Flutter, and then I'm gonna show you how you can do that. Great. So now let's proceed. So everybody ready now to proceed to the next step? So now you understand the concepts of documents and collections. Perfect. Now, if you see, I'm showing you in this step how you add documents and all that. You can add anything, that's totally fine. And then I'm showing you here a recap on how is that. So, and how it works. So key value pairs inside of a document, and then inside of a document, inside of a collection, you add multiple documents. So that is that. So let's go now to step number 7. In step number 7, I show you how then you can connect your Firebase project, your Firestore database to your Flutter application. So I hope you guys are ready for that. But we need to do one more thing in Firebase before we come back to Flutter to then start coding. So let me show you what is that. I'm going to answer one more question. Sartat, you say, is there automated way to add data all together as in SQL? You could, for example, let's say if you want to dump a bunch of data, there's no way to just dump a bunch of data in there. You could programmatically add it. Yes, of course, like programmatically, you can add a bunch of documents and collections. You can batch, right? Yes. And then you can have, for example, like a JSON that you want to batch right into the document. Yes, there is a way to do that. There are still ways, like tricky ways to do like backups on Firebase, but you could do a batch right. Like you can write a bunch of rows and a bunch of documents or a bunch of documents into a Firestore collection using a batch write mechanism. Yes, it's not like kind of like you do a dump. It's not like the same as you do a dump in SQL. Here it's more like you run a script that then adds a bunch of documents. So it's a little different, but it's kind of like a similar approach. Not as again maybe as robust as SQL, because SQL is more proliferous and is much older technology. But you could do something similar in Firestore. It says the time to take in can use a JSON file or upload JSON files. You cannot upload a JSON file here, unfortunately. Not like the way you could do, for example, in other places. But here in Cloud Firestore, because it's not like a JSON blob. So don't think as Cloud Firestore as just a JSON file. No, the structure when you see it, it looks like a JSON, but it's based on documents and collections that maintain that kind of structure. But it's behind the scenes. It's not building just a gigantic JSON. No, because it makes it very robust. It's not just a big file living on the cloud. That's not how it works. Yes, and when you Falguni says, can you explain the document collection relationships again? You got a little confused. Very good. Okay, let me do it again. So a collection is just a group of documents. So a collection is just for holding a bunch of documents. And a document is just a group of key value pairs. That's all it takes. You see here in my screen, I created a collection, and a collection just has documents inside. That's all it has. You see, there's nothing else in a collection. Only documents. Documents are the things that hold the information. You can query a collection for the documents, but the documents eventually is what has the data. And then you will see now how we would query collections and documents from Flutter. So collection is nothing more than, think of it as an array. Think of it as like that type of structure, like a data structure that holds other things. And then those things are documents. And a document is just kind of like imagine kind of like a dictionary that has keys and values. The keys are the fields, the values are just the values for your data. Exactly. Perfect. Let's continue. So now that we have, and I'm on step number 7, and I'm going to show you now how you set up Firebase to be consumed from Flutter. So the way that you do it, you create an app, but not like an app in the sense of a mobile app. The way that you do it, you create is kind of like a configuration. Now, for those of you, Gaurav, you said that each document has a unique ID. Why? Because yes, you don't want to have multiple documents, for example, just flying, like just a bunch of objects flying in your collection. You want to identify each document inside of that collection. Because you see here, for example, I may have the same object, the same set of fields inside of this collection, but if I don't give it a unique ID, I won't be able to retrieve that single document. So why do you have an ID? Is to uniquely identify that document inside of the collection. Great question, by the way. And that is exactly what I want you to do. Question, the reasons of why we're doing things the way we are. So yes, every document needs to have a unique ID. And then you see it very well how you just see, okay, look, this is my ID. By the way, you don't have to use that like crazy ID that is there. You can add your own ID. For example, I can say Gaurav ID like this. But remember that this is not very unique. I can have another document with that ID. So just make sure that you rely on things like the auto ID because it gives you something more unique. So it's very, very, way to do that. So the IDs for that, great. So now let's proceed with step number 7. I was mentioning that how you connect a Firebase to Flutter is by using an app. So I'm in step number 7 right now. In step number 7, I show you how you build an app. An app in Firestore is nothing more than a configuration for a particular platform on how to connect to Firestore. The way that you do it is in step number 7, you go to project overview. And immediately here in the project overview of your Firebase console, you see these little icons. You see like an iOS icon, you see like an Android icon, and a web icon. Since we're doing Dartpad, we're building a Flutter web app pretty much. So you need to create a web app, meaning the configuration that the web app needs to connect to Firebase. If you were building an iOS application or an Android application in Flutter, you need to add these two, because for iOS, you need a specific set of configurations. For those of you who asked, who mentioned connection strings, this is kind of like what we're creating. We're creating the connection string, but instead of being a string, it's actually a configuration object. And I will show you how to do that. RK, you say, how can we use Firebase as email authentication? Can you explain it, sir? I will explain that in just a minute after I explain the app piece. But yes, that's a very good question. So first, let's create the app that will connect to Flutter. So you click here where it says web, you click on this little icon, and then all you're gonna do here, because it's just a way for the web app to connect to Firestore. If you were building an Android, then Android has to have a specific configuration because it's a specific platform to connect to Firestore. So here is a web app, so I can just say Gdsc web app, for example. I can just name it anything, but it's a nickname for the web app that will connect to Firestore. You don't need to set up hosting because we won't be doing any hosting. And then you just click register app. When you click register app, now it gives you that connection string that I was mentioning, but it doesn't give it as a connection string. It gives it as an object. So it's like a little object that has like a bunch of properties. If you kind of put it together as a string, it kind of looks like a connection string, but it gives you all the IDs that you need in order to connect your Flutter application to Firebase, and then you can pull data from it. So this is kind of like what we did. Perfect. So now that you did that, now you created the web app that will connect to we'll connect our Flutter app to Firebase, then you're all set. Now I will continue to console. I will click here on the button and I will continue to the console. And then you see the app that is already created here. You see it's right here in the Firebase console. You see at the top that there is a little icon that says one app. And when you see it, this is the web app that is already created. And if you click here in the little cog, the little icon here, you will see that in the project settings, in the general tab, you see all the information about your project and the connection that you're making. And then here at the bottom, you again see that configuration. So this is what you need to copy inside of Flutter so that Flutter can connect to the database that you created. Awesome. So that is all you need now in Firebase to, again, we already built the database. We created one collection with 2 documents. And we also created the app, meaning a web app that will connect, like the configuration that is needed for the web app to connect to Flutter. Now, to answer your questions, RK, so how can you use Firebase as an email authentication? Can you explain it? Very simple. If you click here on the authentication link, authentication gives you that capability so that you can connect your Flutter application to Firebase using this authentication mechanism. So if you want to use, for example, like Google, you can just click here to get started. And then you're gonna be given a bunch of authentication mechanisms. If you want to use email and password, if you want to use Google, if you want to use Facebook or any of that, all you have to do is just click on one of those. You say enable. Make sure that you select the email the support email is pretty much the email with which you created this project. You select it right there. See, that's all you needed to do. Enable, put the support email, and you hit save. That's it. You're done. That's how you configure it. Now in Flutter, you have to consume the library that connects to Firebase using the Firebase authentication. So I would encourage you to look into Flutter Fire, which is the package in Flutter that can connect to Firebase. And there is a specific package called Firebase Auth, which provides authentication to Firebase. But just by doing this in Firebase, I've already enabled users to log in with a Google account. So that's how you set up. You can add other providers if you want. You can add Facebook, but then, for example, for Facebook or Twitter, you need to go to Twitter and then create, for example, like an app in there, and then bring in like the API key, the API secret, and all of that. If you want to use, like you asked, like email authentication, you can also do that. You can click here where it says email and password, and then you also enable it. And then that's it. Now, by just saying email and password and just hitting save, now I am able to authenticate with Firebase with an email and password using the Flutter Fire package. It's very simple. It's like even a method that you just say, sign in with email and password. You just send an email, you send a password, Firebase will store it for you, and it will authenticate your users. You don't have to do anything in here. There's no code that you need to do here. All the code is the authentication piece in Flutter, and that's it. You're done. And you authenticate your users in a very secure way. You get the little pop-up, like, to email and password. For Google, you get the Google Authenticator and all of that. Great. Thank you for your question. Thank you for your question, guys. Now let's proceed, because now we should be done, and we are ready to now tackle the Flutter part. Now from Flutter, we will connect to Firebase to pull the information. So, Harshit, you say, do we get any certificate for this particular workshop? Not from me in particular, but at least I know that you will get the knowledge. You may not get a certificate, but you are getting the knowledge. And if you created a Firebase project, this Firebase project can serve you for all your projects. You can do a bunch of things with this Firebase, console project that we just created. Can we do any kind of authentication using Firebase? Yes, we just mentioned those type of authentications. So a third-party authentication with Google, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, you set it up in here. But then from Flutter, or even not Flutter, you can even use other applications. Firebase works with other providers, with the web, with React, with NativeScript, with Vue, with all of those things, like a lot of other providers, other applications that you can connect to. Perfect. Let's proceed. So let's go back to our workshop, and let's go now to step number 8, where finally, now we're able to start tackling Flutter. So now we're going to be building Flutter, a Flutter application, simple application that we can connect to our Firebase database. Tanmaya says, do we have any limitations to this Firebase? Limitations as far as what? Because, for example, limitations in the one that you created, when you say limitations, maybe you say, within the free tier, yes, you do have limitations. For example, you can only have 1 gigabyte of space. You have 1 gigabyte of space in Firebase for building your database data. You have like 1 gigabyte of space for the cloud storage. For authentication, no limitations. It's completely free. You can do as many authentications as you want. For cloud messaging, No, it's completely free. You don't have to, you won't be charged ever. And you can do push notifications. The only limitations that you have is cloud functions, which you need to go to the next level. But for example, for the next level of the next tier, which is the Blaze. But if you stick on the Spark, you can do cloud storage, 1 gigabyte of space, and you can do 1 gigabyte of space for your database for free, and you don't have to pay. So those are pretty much those limitations. Great. So let's proceed. Now we're in step number 8. Now let's start building our application in Flutter. So like I mentioned, we're going to be using Darpad to build this application. So let's now shrink this a little bit like this. And now we will be able to start coding in Flutter. Hooray! I am very excited about this. So now let's start. Great, you're welcome. Yes, ask any questions, guys. I am here to answer all your questions. So now let's proceed now to start coding our application. If you have it just like I have it right now, I have Dartpad on one side, or in another tab, I have my CodeLab on this side. Now let's proceed to code the application. Virendra, you say, do we have any time limitations to this Firebase? Time limitations as far as like a trial? No, there's no time limitations. The only limitation that you have is that 30-day limit that gives you in test mode. After those 30 days, your database becomes production mode, but you don't get charged either. It's just that it's not as open as it was before. But there's no time limitation. This project will last you a lifetime and it won't expire. So if you mean that as fire limit. Oh, I can zoom in. Perfect. I can zoom in. Great. Can you see it there a little bit better? Great. So some people are saying Flutter only, build UI only. So for Flutter, it's only for the user interface. That is correct. So Flutter, you build the UI. With Firebase is the backend, and now we're pair it up, and now we will start doing the code that will connect to Firebase. That is correct. Yes. Let's continue. So now on the left-hand side, you see the code. I hope you guys can read it there. The font size on the right here, like I can do this a little bit like this. And here, can you see it now? Like on the left. Can you see the code a little better now? Because I can make it a little bigger, otherwise it won't be able to fit. But I hope you guys can read it there. You could also, of course, take a look at the code in here, and then I will be able to switch between the two. Perfect. So I'm gonna do that. Great. So let's proceed now. So in Dartpad, we're gonna start from scratch. I love to do this piece right now. So whenever we start from scratch, the way that we do it is you highlight all the code and just delete it, just like that. We're going to start from scratch building this application. So you can just like do it again. You can just highlight. You can either highlight the code like this, and you can just delete everything. That's it. We're going to start from scratch. So let's build our application in Flutter using Dartpad, and now let's connect it to our Firebase. So the first thing that you're going to do, we're in step number 8. Now you scroll down, and then you will see the first thing that I'm doing is actually copying the list of imports that are required by Flutter. We're going to start from the beginning. So that's what we're going to do. When I say start from scratch, let's start from the beginning. So let me copy all those links in here, and then I'm going to paste them on the left-hand side. So what I'm doing right now is importing all the libraries that are required by this application, which are the material, package, Google Fonts, if I want to use some fonts, the Firebase core, which is, again, to connect to Firebase, and Cloudfirestore, which is the one that gives me the Firestore instance so I can connect to my collection in Flutter. So let's continue down the line. So the next thing that I will ask you to do is add the main method. So the main method in a Flutter application is the most important method in a Flutter application. Why? Because it bootstraps the application. It's the first thing that starts loading the application. Great. So you just have a void main method. That's all we do. Let's continue. So you see that some of these also code is as a screenshot, so I don't let you copy paste. That is on purpose. Why? Because that will make you learn Flutter. The way to learn Flutter is by practice. You have to practice coding in Flutter, and that is how you will be able to become great Flutter developers. So yes, I made it on purpose just so that you can also type it. So let's now type. The first thing that we're going to do inside of our main method is making this method asynchronous. So by making it asynchronous, by decorating the main method as asynchronous, we are saying that the contents of the main method are going to be asynchronous. Like calling a database is going to be an asynchronous call. And yes, Gaurav, whatever we're typing is Dart. Everything that we're typing is Dart. We are importing libraries in Flutter and we're using the framework, but the language that we're typing is Dart. Dart is an object-oriented programming language that was used to build Flutter, and that's exactly what we're typing right now. Great. Let's continue. So I decorate the main method with the word async because I'm going to be making an asynchronous call to Firebase to do the connection. Great. So the first thing that I will do is one method called widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialized. What does this mean? This method means that I'm ensuring that the Flutter framework and the bindings required to load the application are in place before I call Firebase. So you first call that method and then you proceed. So I am going to now go to the next line. Again, you freaking forget about this line because this line is just one-time line and it's just to ensure that Flutter is properly initialized before calling anything else. The next line that I'm going to be doing is an await, and then I'm going to use now the Firebase packages. So I'm going to be saying Firebase dot initialize app. So now you remember. So when you're initializing your Flutter application, now you want to initialize the Flutter, the Firebase instance. You need to pass to this instance some type of connection string. Do you guys recall that configuration that needs to be here? You remember where that is? I show you where it is. Back into your Flutter project. Remember, if I go to the project overview up top, I will go to your questions in a minute. And when you click here, the app, the web app that we created, if you scroll all the way down, you'll remember this little piece right here. That is what goes inside the initialization of Flutter. This is like the connection string so that we can connect to Firebase now. So let's go back. So that's exactly what we're going to be typing here. So inside of the await, you add an options property, and then you add it as a constant Firebase options like this. And you remember those values, then you just paste them in there. I'm sorry. So let me copy them again. Sorry. I'll copy. You grab these configuration values. You're going to copy. And then you paste it right in here. Make sure that you do tab because unfortunately, Dartpad is not like really good at like formatting your code. Just make sure that you add it like this so that you can have it formatted in a very nice way. So some of you are asking, do we must have, you have to create a class? Yes, you create classes. In this particular case, no, because the void main is just a method that your framework is going to load. But then when you create widgets, yes, you will be creating classes because you can treat Dart as a functional language. You can just create functions and you also can create classes. So Nupur, when we have to submit the basic Flutter app, so you won't be submitting applications using Dartpad. Dartpad is just for learning Flutter. But if you build this sample app in Dartpad, you can copy all the code and you can bring it into Visual Studio, and then you can build an application, and then you can like deploy it. Here, this is for learning Flutter. Great. Let's proceed. Yes, you can have add-on features like in Android Studio. Here, unfortunately, you don't have those add-ons. This is just a web-based IDE for learning Flutter. Unfortunately, it's not as rich as Android Studio. So don't think of this as like Android Studio. Great questions, guys. Please keep bringing bringing those questions. So now the next thing that we're going to be doing is the first method in a Flutter application after the main method is the run app method. The run app method. What is the run app method? It's the first method in the framework that mounts the widget, the first widget inside of the widget tree. In Flutter, everything is a widget, including the application itself. So the way that you build your structure in Flutter is by creating widgets, and then you mount widgets, kind of like creating a hierarchy. Yes, some of you ask, when making an Android app, how do we initialize Firebase there, as the options are for web app? Right. Yes, you can do the same thing. If you were doing an Android application, you would have done it like this. You would have done one app, and then you do add an app, and you click on Android. You add like the information about Android, and you will get also a configuration that then you will have to add to your Android application. Is in the form of a JSON file that is called like I believe it's called like Google Firebase settings, something like that. I forgot what it's named, but actually let's try it here. If I do like dear coders sample, whatever, and then here I say my app, and then when you say like register app, you're gonna get a JSON file that gives you the configuration. You see, it's called Google Services JSON. And it's the same thing like we did with the web app. Here, you're going to have all the connection strings and all the things that you need to do to actually build your Android application. So it's exactly the same thing. Great. Let's go back again to the code lab. So the first thing that you call is a run app method, which will load the first widget into the widget tree. Great. Okay. So now what I'm going to ask you do, because for the sake of time, we won't be completing the whole thing, but I want you to continue working with this application. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be creating this first widget that we're going to be loading. So follow along with me. We're going to skip a few things, but if you follow along, then we're going to do great. So the first thing that you're going to add to this run app method is the first widget, our first widget. It's going to be called GDG app, for example. Like that. So like I mentioned, you have the run app method. The run app method loads the first widget inside the widget tree, which is kind of like the root widget, pretty much. That's what the run app does. And then you see that you get like a squiggly red line in there. That means you haven't created this widget. This doesn't exist. And for those of you who ask how to create widgets, well, the way that you create a widget is by creating a class. So you create a class. And when you create a custom widget, you create a class that either inherits from stateful widget or stateless widget. Those are the two type of classes that you can inherit from to build your own custom widgets. So what do they mean? Let me show you. So I'm in step number 8, and I'm going to be creating my first application. So I'm going to be calling it class. I'm going to say class GDG app extends stateless widget. And then you create a simple class just like this. Yeah, Gaurav asks run app. So again, run app is the first method in the Flutter framework that loads the first widget as the root of the widget tree, just like that. And Keith, I'm gonna get to that point to show you a little bit of the snapshot. I'm glad that you actually went ahead and started doing like snapshots and whatnot. I'm gonna explain that in a minute. So let's proceed. So the stateless widget is a widget that doesn't maintain any state. So if you just want something painted on the screen, you just do a stateless widget. Stateful widget, on the other hand, is a widget that rebuilds multiple times as its state changes. So if you want to have more interactivity on your widgets, use a stateful widget because those widgets rebuild multiple times and they maintain their state in memory as the widget rebuilds. So I'm going to show you now what do you have to do in your custom widget to make it work. So you have to create a method called build. And for that, you have to override it. Yes, it shows an error because it doesn't exist. We have to build other things in the class. I haven't finished it yet. So you have to finish it so that the error goes away. So now the most important method in a Flutter widget is the build method, because the build method is called by Flutter to paint your widget on the screen. You have to add all the things inside of the build method the things that make up your widget so that your widget can work. So you have to make a method called widget build, like this. It has to be called build, and then you give it a build context, and then you call it context. So the context in a Flutter widget is nothing more than a handle, like a pointer to where the widget is on the screen. You could also use the context. Again, this is fed, this is provided by the framework when you're creating your custom widget. You create your build method, and then Flutter gives you a context. And then with that context, you can know where your widget is. You can pull other things from parent widgets like services and whatnot. You can go up the widget tree and then find your ancestors, and you can pull data out of them. So that is what you use the context for. You can use it also to query stuff within Flutter, like the size of the widget, the size of the screen, the platform. You can do a lot of things with that. So now you will see the error will go away after I return the something out of this method. What I'm going to be returning is my first widget, which is called material app. So now you will see that the error goes away. So now why am I returning a material app? So a material app is another widget that gives you the material styles from Google. So it gives you kind of like the root of all the other widgets that are going to inherit that material look and feel. So those of you who have Androids, you see that Android is based on the material design. So when you add a material widget, now all the widgets under this widget, because you're building a hierarchy, are going to inherit the material library. Great. Let's continue. So now you can see, for example, like adding how you add things to the material app. So for example, I'm going to be adding a property called Kazi says, can you please also show how to connect the Firebase with VS Code? I can show you how to do it VS Code, but I will have to do it at the end. But it's exactly the same way. You don't have to do much different that I'm doing in Darpad than just installing it from, let's say, from your code, like doing like a Flutter get Firebase. But every single code that is in here, you can just copy paste it in Visual Studio Code. But the only difference is that here you don't have to install anything because it's already pre-installed. And in Visual Studio Code, you just have to install the package. But other than that, the same code that is here works in Visual Studio Code. So people say, what type of things we can return as compared to the material app? Great question. RK, so what can you return? You return widgets, because this method is a type widget. You can only return widgets. I am going to be showing you other widgets that we'll be creating and returning, but you can only return widgets. Perfect. Let's continue. So inside of the material app, you're gonna type debug show checked mode banner. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful. This is just for disabling a little bit of a sash that shows for you on the right hand side of the top of the screen. It's just like a debug mode that you just disable. That's all it does. And then here you can add like some theme. So you say like theme, and then you say theme data. So you want to add like some theming to your application. Like I want to make all the text, all the text widgets in my application to inherit, like have the same type of font. You do it in the theme. So here I say text theme, Google Fonts. Remember, I installed the Google Fonts package above. So I say Google Fonts dot Poppings theme. This is like the Poppings theme is just like the text for like the Poppings Google fonts. And then all I do here is just say theme dot off. Remember the context? I'm using the context here to actually pull the theme out of like the application. So that is what you use the context for, to actually pull things from parents widgets that provide like services and whatnot. Yes, you can return widgets like scaffold, column. Great, Ankit. That was a great answer. Thank you for helping me out there. You can return other types of widgets. Great. And then inside of the material app, you add one very important property called home. And then the home now represents the first widget that you're going to be showing to your users. So it's going to be the home widget. Let's call this widget just like we called it earlier, GDG community. Let's call it GDG community home. Again, just like the way that we created a GDG app widget, we're going to be creating a custom widget, and we're going to call it GDG community home. So now anybody can guess how I can build my own custom widget. Very simple. Just like we did the GDG app, you create a class called GDG Community Home, right? And then you extend stateless widget, just like we did earlier. Look, so I'm gonna just keep it there. Stateless widget. You override the build method. You say like widget build. You pass the context. Remember, you need to have the context. Otherwise, again, it doesn't do anything. Now I will do just like Ankit mentioned in the chat. You can return anything from this widget. In this widget, if we follow the code lab, I am going to be returning like a scaffold. So that is what we're going to be doing. So Ankit, thank you very much. And I see that you are very savvy in Flutter. Keep up the good work, man. And yes, thank you for helping me out in the answers. So I will repeat the theme. So the theme is a property of the material app that you give it so that you can make like all your widgets, all your text widgets in your application to have the same theme. What I'm saying here is all the text widgets will have the Poppins font, Google font. By just applying a theme data and to the theme data, setting the text theme, now every widget that has a text in there will inherit the Poppins theme. I don't have to go inside of my every widget and say font family Poppins, font family Poppins, font family Poppins. No, I just do it one time. Now all of them will have the same font family. Great. That is the theme, how you apply it. And just like Ankit mentioned, yes, we will be returning something other than a material app. In this case, we will be returning a scaffold. But before you proceed, we are already in step number 9. In step number 9, I provided a class that you can copy paste, and I want you to copy paste it. You can just drop it anywhere down here in the code. This class is kind of like a class that provides some properties and some variables that I want you to reuse in the application so that you don't have to do a lot of typing. For example, like setting some global colors, some images that I want you to consume. So this is like a good practice whenever you want to create like utility methods, like properties that you want to use throughout your application. You encapsulate them all into one single utilities class, for example. So great, you can do that. You can just copy the utils class. Again, we're in step number 9. And then you can just copy the class and paste it right there. Let's proceed right down the line. And I'm going to be returning a scaffold. A scaffold is another type of widget that gives you kind of like the foundation for like a page type of, for like a page widget. So I'm going to be saying return scaffold. And then to my scaffold, I'm going to be adding a background color. So now we're getting into the Flutter state of mind. Now we're setting properties, creating widgets, and building our structure. So I'm going to set a background color to my widget. I'm going to say colors.white. And then now, yeah, we've typed a lot and we haven't tested so far. Now let's do our first run. So now if I hit run, if I hit run in Dartpad just to see what we've typed so far, what you will see right now is a blank screen. So that is the first thing that you will see. Even with that, if you see a blank screen and you don't get any errors, you're good. That means our project is properly set up, and believe it or not, it's already connected to Firebase. I will show you how. Gurav says, scaffold is a widget, so widget is a class or what? Yes, everything is a widget, and widgets are based off a class. So a scaffold, if you navigate, let's say, to the documentation of what a scaffold is, yes, it looks just like this one. So it's a class that inherits another type of widget, and those widgets are built like that, like a hierarchy. So you build a scaffold, then you add another widget, then this widget has another widget, and so on. You build a structure, like a hierarchy. So remember, the first one was our GDG app, that is the root. Then the GDG app has the material app. Then the material app has the GDG community home. Then the GDG community home has the scaffold. You see, we're building a tree of widgets. So think about that. Widget is a tree of structures. So that's exactly what a scaffold is. So a scaffold is another widget, just like the material app, just like the GDG app. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So think about that. So now that you see a blank screen in your screen, you're good. That means you didn't get anything errors. That means it's good. Now let's continue. Let's add other things, other widgets to our application. I'm going to be adding an app bar. So those of you familiar, with your mobile applications, an app bar is nothing more like a header widget that has either a title or an image, holds like icons and all that. So how do you add an app bar? You set up the app bar property in your scaffold. So I'm going to say app bar. And then an app bar is another widget. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So you exactly, Ankit, nested structures. One connects the other. One encapsulates the other, just like that. And then you build your structures like that. Great. Let's continue. So inside of the app bar, now I'm going to set a background color. You guys already know this. So I'm going to set a background color. And then I'll say colors.transparent because I don't want to have a background in there, which is cool. I want to add elevation of 0. That means I don't want any shadows in my header. So that is the elevation, kind of like a shadow that it gives you. So you say elevation 0 is no shadows. And then here you add an icon theme, kind of like the theme of the application. Now all the icons in the app bar will be gray. So if I say const icon theme data, and then you do like color, and then you do colors.gray. By saying this, I'm saying all the icons, just like you asked earlier about the theme property, Kazi. So the theme property applies all the text across the application. Icon theme says all the icons will be one type of kind, like one color. In this case, only for the app bar. Now let me continue and add another property called title. And title is another type of widget that then you can add. You can add an image. You can add, a text. In this case, I'm adding an image from the network. So let me show you how you add an image to the title of your app bar. So you say image.network, and then image.network, yes, you guessed it, is another widget. So it's all widgets. So for example, on Kid, you say while creating the app, a debug banner appears on the top right to remove what we use false. That is correct. So yes, up here, remember, when you say debug show check mode banner equals false, that removes it. If by default is true, so you will see that little sash. That's why I set it to false. That is correct. So I'm going to keep it as false, and then I'm going to continue. And again, I'm going to add an image. So an image is another type of widget. You can add images from the network, images from memory, images from your assets folder, all of that. In this case, I'm going to be using an image that I already provided to you in the utils class. So you say utils.appBarIcon, and then you give it some dimensions to your image. You can say width 40 pixels, height 40 pixels, and you want to make sure that your image fits well. So you say fit boxfit.contain. So now that you do that, and I think I misspelled this as app bar, sorry about that. And now that I added my app bar, I'm just gonna hit run to see what it looks like on the application. So you see, that's how you build your application. You start coding a little bit, you hit run, and then you do like a hot reload that loads your application, and then you can start seeing things. You will be able to see now the GDG logo at the top bar. If you see that, you are in very good shape. That means your project is loading properly, and you are, you are now able to load an image widget in your application. Great. If you have more questions, please drop it in the chat. And for the organizing team, can you guys let me know whether we're doing good in time? Because I'm gonna go just a little bit further, just to now connect the application to Firebase, and then we can wrap up. But at least I wanted to make sure that I'm not going over too much on the time. So let's continue now a little bit. So let's continue down the line. Now we're going to be adding the body of the scaffold. So a scaffold has a body, and then body takes any type of widget. And some of you already understand. Yes, if you can show an error, yes, it's totally fine. Just make sure that whenever you do your app bar, let me just show it over again. When you see your app bar, make sure that you do the proper commas, and then that you do the proper indentation and the proper closing of the parentheses. That way, it gives you that. Yes. For you showing an error, and the app bar is property of the scaffold and the app bar is in the widget. Yes, that is correct. App bar is a property of the scaffold, and then app bar is a separate widget. So app bar is another widget that shows the header, and app bar is a property of scaffold. So I was getting an error because I misspelled it. So apologies for that. And then now you fix it, and now you see, okay, it's an app bar. Make sure that you do the proper indentation and all of that. So now I'm going to add another property of the scaffold. Is called body. So body is now the main region in your scaffold where you're going to add the body of the widget. And then body takes any other type of widgets. So body you can add, in this case, like a padding. That is exactly what we're going to be adding. So padding is another type of widget. Even if it's like a widget that allows for adding breathing room to your widgets, it is a widget. For example, container is another type of widget that gives you margins, columns, text, image, buttons. Those are all widgets. Now we're going to be adding a widget to the body of the scaffold. Great. So now I'm going to be adding a padding widget. And you see, as you guys mentioned, and I don't know if Ankit mentioned it earlier, he was saying, the way that app bar works and how are widgets. But there are widgets that take either a single child, or there are widgets that take children. Padding is one of those widgets that take a single child. So you can only add one widget to that. You can add a widget that can have multiple children underneath it, but there are widgets that only take one child. In this case, padding is one of those. So I'm going to add a child. And you see, for example, actually, let me add the padding first. I'm going to add padding to the padding widget. And this is how you add the padding. You say edge insets, and then you have multiple options on how to add the padding. I'm going to be using all, and then I'm going to say I'm passing a value to it. That means 40 pixels all around whatever widget I'm wrapping, something like that. Yes. And then now padding has a child, and then you can add a single child. In this case, I'm going to be adding a column. A column is another widget that adds your makes your widgets stack up like in a vertical fashion from top to bottom. You can also like reverse it and whatever, but a column is nothing more than just that. It's something that aligns your widgets in a vertical fashion. And column is one of those widgets that take a children property, just like Ankit mentioned. So it's adding a children property so that you can add multiple widgets underneath it. Perfect. Inside a column, you can add other properties. For example, how to align the widgets in the column. In this case, I'm going to be adding a property called cross-axis alignment. Cross-axis alignment gives you the horizontal alignment on a column. And then in this case, I'm going to say horizontally align them to the left. That way you have to say cross-axis alignment start. You have you have end, which means to the right. You have start, which means to the left. So now I'm saying a padding widget that has a column with a padding of 40 pixels of padding all around, and all the items are going to be left aligned, for example, if you want to do it like that. Perfect. So Kazi, you say, how do I know which widget contains child only and which widget contains children? Well, you're going to have to, unfortunately, you're going to have to kind of explore it on your own whenever. It's not like you can just look at the documentation, but when you start typing and then you see, for example, like padding, or for example, like another widget, let me show you. For example, if I say a children of the column is a container, and if I start typing and I say child, it may, for example, if I say children here, it will fail because container doesn't have children. But if I have a child, it won't fail because container does have a child. And you see, you don't see an error. So you can see roughly, for example, just by typing it, but there's no clear way to know which one has child, which has a children, until you kind of like either know or study it. It's not like just by looking at the name, you know which one is which. Unfortunately, for example, like padding has row has children, column has children, stack has children, but for example, padding has a child, container has a child. Icons don't have child, for example. See, there are widgets that don't take any child at all. So you see, you just have to get into the habit of exploring on your own, building widgets, and then you get familiar with those type of widgets. widgets. Yes. I can definitely provide the GitHub repo, but this widget, again, this project that we're building, is all the code is provided at the end of this code lab, so you can do it on your own as well. So let's proceed. We're about to now add a couple of other things so that we can now build this application. So now, if you're continuing on this code lab, again, because of the sake of time, Tanmaya, you say, can we have more example for the child and the children and the difference? I will be doing that in a minute. Yes, I will be adding those examples in a minute. If you guys are following along, you can continue, of course, but I will skip a couple of steps so that I can get to the part where we connected to Firebase. I'm going to skip all the way to, let me show you right now. I'm going to skip to step number 13, because now I'm going to be showing you, again, just like you mentioned, actually step number 12, where we do, I'm sorry, let me see which is the one that I'm going to be setting. Connecting to the Firebase project. So this is what I want to no, we did already that. I wanted to show you the Firestore real-time capabilities. Yes. So let's go to step 14. That is the step that I want you to jump right now, because we're going to now connect. It just simply, we're going to connect our widget to Firebase. But I'm going to show you a couple of examples on creating those things. Great. So now we're in step 14, because I want to now connect it to Firebase, again, because of the sake of time. But please go ahead on your own and continue finalizing this code lab. So now I'm going to go all the way down to step 14. I'm going to show you how we're going to be building this quick widget for connecting to Firebase, which is kind of like a widget that has a meter, like a community meter. That's what I'm calling it. So I scroll all the way down. See, we're adding a app bar and all of that. We're adding the padding and all of this. Now let's go all the way to step 14. I am again on step 14. I am all the way at the bottom of this page, where I'm going to be adding like some text widgets. I'm going to just show you a couple of those so that you can see it. So instead of, you see here in this widget, I'm adding the column, and I'm going to be adding 2 text widgets. So a text widget is nothing more than just a text label, and that's all it has. And then as children, you can add like text widgets just like this one. So again, I'm in step 14. I'm going to be adding those text widgets. So I'm going to say cons text, and then I'm going to be adding, for example, like some labels to that text widget. It's going to be called community meter. That's all a text widget needs. A text widget only needs is just like the label, and then you provide like some stylings to a text widget. You can add like text align, and then you can say text align dot center. That way you can center the text on your widget. And you can add styles to your widget. You can say style, and then you do text style, and then you can add color to your text widget. You can say color utils.main color. Remember, I'm using some of those properties in the main class, in the widget class, in the utils class that I created, so that you can simplify the development. And then you can change a font size to your widget, and then you can say like 30, something like that. So you see, this is very simple. This is just another those widgets, like a text widget, that you can just add some text, you align the text, and then you apply some styling to your text widget. Now let's see what it looks like. I'm gonna hit run, and then you will see how the widget shows. Very simple. It's just a simple widget that just adds that. And then I'm running it. You will see it says like community meter. It should say at the top. There you go. You see, it says community meter, and he just centers it. That's all he does. Now I'm going to add another one. You can just do copy paste just like this, right? And then you can have another type of widget. And then you see, you build your structure like that. Remember, a column just adds the widgets from top to bottom. That's all it does. And then now I am going to just name this text like goal 300 messages, for example, because what I'm going to be adding is to Firebase, we're going to just bombard it with a bunch of messages and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to change the font size to 15, just so that we can see, what it looks like just a smaller type of widget. Great. So if you see here, you're going to see like the other widget right underneath it. And then you see, Perfect. I'm going to change the column style that I'm saying cross alignment start. I'm going to change this to say stretch. And stretch, what it does is it makes your widgets stretch with the parent, meaning take the horizontal space on the column so that the widget stretches with it. And you kind of like implement a little bit of responsive UI and responsive design when you build it like this. So by doing that, now I'm making it so my widget stretches, and you see now that it looks more centered and then it's stretched with the column. And if I stretch this, you see that it behaves like in a very responsive fashion. Great, awesome. So I'm glad that you guys are here in step 14. We just skipped ahead just to get to that part. Now I'm going to be reading the values from Firebase. Let's read values from Firebase. Now that I am connected to Firebase, like I showed you above, now let me show you how from Flutter you can call your collections in Firebase and pull data out of it. Let me show you how to do that. So now that you have the connection strings, or again, like I mentioned, the connections right here above, this is what connects it to Firebase. Now we can call it and pull data from it. Let me show you. So now what we're going to be doing is pulling Firebase data, right? So the way that you pull Firebase data, you use the Firebase Firestore. Let me just zoom this in a little. You use the Firebase Firestore instance. And the Firebase Firestore instance is given to you by the package above. So what is it? How do you pull it out of Firebase? So you say Firebase Firestore dot instance, that is the instance of Firebase. And then you say dot collection. You remember the name of the collection? What is it called? The collection in here in Flutter, in Firebase, I'm sorry. The collection is called Gdsc team. So if you want to pull a collection from Firebase, you have to say the name of the collection. You have to say Gdsc team. When you say then dot snapshots, what you're doing there is actually pulling a reference to the collection as a query snapshot. That's what it's called. So instead of you calling it for example, like the reference of a collection in Flutter is called, a query snapshot. And then a query snapshot is something that allows you to listen to changes in the collection so that you can react to that in your Flutter application. So there are, again, two ways on how you pull the information from Firebase is using a one-time fetch, just saying get. For example, you want to just pull the information, you just say Firebase Firestore instance collection team.get. By just saying get, you're just pulling it one time. But then if you say snapshots or say like dot listen, you're actually listening on the collection. You get it one time, you get the first snapshot, the first collection, and any other changes that you make in the collection, you also receive it. That is the second way that you do it. If when you say get, you have to get it all the time, you have to pull the data. But then if you say dot listen or you say dot snapshots, you're actually getting a listener that you can get it as a stream of values to Flutter. Let me show you how to do that because it may be a little bit confusing initially. But for example, now if you come over here, for example, and if you say, for example, like here, if you say Firebase, I'm just going to type it real quick just to explain it. If you say Firebase Firestore dot instance, right? That is the instance of Firebase. And then if you say dot collection, you have to say the name of the collection, Gdsc team. Right there, you get something called a collection reference. So that is the reference to the collection in Firestore. If you say dot get means just give me the values of the collection. So you're going to get a reference. Out of the collection reference, you get something called a query snapshot, which is just a pointer that represents like all the values that are in your collection, or just like reference to your collection pretty much. Now, if you say dot, for example, if you say dot snapshots means I'm going to get kind of like a stream of values from Firebase, from Firestore. Instead of just getting it once, I'm going to get it one time, and then every subsequent time that there's a change, I'm going to be receiving it. So let me show you now how we're going to pull that data. Let's see the data. The first thing that we're going to be doing is actually creating one specific widget that is called a stream builder. A stream builder is another widget that you use in Flutter to pull information as a stream. So remember, when you say dot snapshots, you get a stream of values. So you need a widget that listens to streams. So that is what we're going to be doing here. First of all, we're going to be adding another widget called expanded. Expanded widget, for those of you who are familiar, expanded widget is one of those widgets that allow you to take the remaining space in a column or a row. So what it does, it just takes the most of the available space in that, let's say, in that structure. In this case, the community meter and the goal value just take the space that they need, but the rest of the space will be taken by the expanded widget. So that is what the expanded does. It just is a widget that has a flex of 1, pretty much, and a flex fit of tight, meaning it's just going to take most of the space in that column. So remember, some widgets have children, some widgets have a child. Expanded takes a single child. So now the expanded is going to expand on the whole screen. It's going to take all that white space underneath it. It's going to take all that space. And I'm going to add another widget called the stream builder widget. Just like I mentioned before, there are widgets that take child, there are widgets that take children. This stream builder is a widget, but it doesn't take a child. What it does, it takes a stream, meaning a connection to Firebase, so that when Firebase changes, I receive my changes in here. And it also rebuilds the UI so that it can show other widgets in response to the changes that I do in the database. Let me show you how to do that. So the stream builder takes 2 parameters. The first parameter is a stream. And how did I explain how you get a stream from Firestore? You code snapshots. So that is what you do. So here I say Firebase Firestore, say dot instance dot collection. And then remember the name of the collection? The collection is called Gdsc team. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to type it. And I'm going to say, let me just put it down here so that I do some spacing. Collection I'll say Gdsc team. And then out of that collection reference, I say dot snapshots. By me saying snapshots, I'm saying give me a reference to that collection and continue listening for any changes. That is the stream. The second parameter is a builder. The builder method is just a callback method, and this is where you're going to build your widget structure that will respond to the changes in the Firestore. The builder takes 2 parameters. One called the context. Remember what a context is. It's given by the framework whenever you want to pull data from parents and whatever and access information, and the snapshot. A snapshot is already a reference to this collection. So now the snapshot is just a pointer to the collection from which now I can query the values in that collection. How do you query the values? Let me show you. So how do you query the values in that collection? Here in step number 14, I am showing you how to do that. So first things first, you check whether it has data in the database. So you say, if snapshot has data, this is saying, do I have data in this snapshot? Like, is there data when I pulled it from Firestore? So if you're true, you can just say return. For example, we're going to start with something simple. I'm going to say return has data. Okay? I'm going to return a text widget. But if not, I am just going to say return. And I'm going to return like a spinner, like a spinner indicator, because it's going to take a little bit to pull the data, like a second or 2, and then you want to show like an indicator of some sort. So I'm going to return, for example, like a center widget. Here in the tutorial, I'm returning a size box, but you could do anything. Here, I'm going to return a center widget with a child being a circular progress indicator. And for those of you who, again, now know, center is just another type of widget that just centers its contents. That's all it does. Now let's see if we can pull data from Firebase. So the first thing that we're querying is whether there is data in Firestore. So now I'm saying if the snapshot has data, well, now show me whether there is data. So we're gonna output it right there. You see the spinner, and you're gonna see a label that is gonna show and is gonna say whether there is data or not. So after it just spins a little bit, now it says has data. So that was thanks to the stream and the builder. The builder executes every time that there is a change. So the first change was there's no data. Okay, let me just return a progress indicator. Then the stream communicated with the stream builder again, and then there was data, and then it returned this. Now that we know that it has data, now let's query Firebase. Let me show you how to do it. So the way that you pull whether there's data or not, you can query it like this. You can say, out of the snapshot, you pull the data. So that is how you pull the data. Look, you can say query snapshot. This is a reference of the collection in there. So you can say collection ref, like a reference, and then you say snapshot dot data as query snapshot. By saying this, I am pulling a reference of the collection that lives in there, the Gdsc team reference. So I have a reference to that collection. Now, out of that collection, I want to pull all the documents. Remember, we have two documents. So the documents, see, this is a query snapshot. This is the class that represents the reference to the collection. Now, if you want to get the reference of the documents, you have to create a list. Let me bring it up here. A list of query document snapshot. So it's not the document itself. It's a reference to the document. So now I'm going to call it just docs, for example, like documents. And then from here, I say collection ref dot docs. Just by doing this, I am able to pull, as you see right here, in this line of code, I pull the reference to the collection. In this line of code, I am pulling all the documents in that collection. Some people are saying, do we have to upload this project only, or we can upload some other projects too? So again, remember, if you're talking about Dartpad, this is a project that you can copy and put it like in your Visual Studio Code. This is something that you can do on your own. You can save it somewhere, but here there's no uploading in here. Remember, this is a private sandbox. Oh, is that maybe another question to the team or something for submitting? I think it may be a question for them. Okay, so let me proceed. So now that you have the collection, the number of the collections, let's see if we actually can read the documents. So you see here in Firebase, you have a collection and you have two documents. You have two documents. Let's see if we can see that we have two documents in there. This is how you do it. So I'm going to print it out here on my text widget. I'm going to say docs. See, I'm going to use this collection right here. I'm going to check whether I do have two documents in there. I'm going to say docs.length.toString, for example. And then if I run this, I should be able to see a big number 2 in there. So let me just change the style of this text widget so you can see. So I can do style, text style, font size 50, something like that, right? Let's see if we can see that we can get the document. So if I hit run, now we should be able to see the spinning wheel going, and then I should be able to see that I have two documents in this collection. And then I can pull the data out of those two documents as well. So let's try this. So now that I see the documents in there, I'm sorry, it's running still. So it's gonna pull and it's gonna see whether I do have two documents in my application. So let's take a look. And if you have any questions, please ask it. And there it is. So I have two documents. That's all it says. So I'm just printing out here, as you see, how many documents I have in my documents collection. And remember that I said that the stream builder listens for the changes in the collection. Well, let's test that. So let's try to add one more document to that collection, and let's see if this is actually listening to changes. So I'm going to hit one more document. And then I'm going to say, again, remember adding the same fields. I'm going to say full name. Let me pick somebody else from the audience. I'm going to say Nupur. Namdev. Like if I say this, let's say I'm going to add one more person. And then I'm going to say photo URL, something. And then age, I'll say 18, for example. If I'm ready with this document the way it is, I'm going to hit save. And now after I save it, you saw the number incrementing to 3 automatically. That means Flutter is listening constantly to changes in my collection and is able to respond to that. Let me add another one real quick. So keep looking at the number 3. And then if I say full name, I'm going to pick somebody else. Kumar Timkar, for example. I'm going to pull you in here. I'll say photo URL. Keep looking at the number 3. And then I'm going to say age. I'm going to make it a number, of course. And then I'm going to say, 100 again, something like that. And now I just hit save. Keep looking at the number 3. If I hit save, you see now how that number changes to the number 4. So you see, that's what I like about, exactly, Gaurav, we are counting documents. That's all we're doing. I'm just checking the length of those documents. But now let's say you want to pull the data out of the document. How do you pull it? It's very simple. You pull the data as remember that the document is actually nothing more than a key value pair, a group of key value pairs. Well, let's pull one of you guys. Let's pull the first one, or whichever one comes out. The way that you pull it is as a map of string dynamic, meaning it's just a dictionary where the key is a string and the value is a dynamic type in Garg. And then I'm just going to call it doc. How do you pull a document out of your collection? Well, all you say is docs. You pull, let's say, the first reference, and then you say dot data. By saying dot data, you're pulling the information from inside of the document, from the document reference as a map. And then here you just cast it as a map of string dynamic. Just like this. And then now, does anybody know how to pull data from like a dictionary, like from let's say if you know JavaScript, maybe from a JavaScript object, how you pull the data from an object? You can refer to it as using like the array syntax. You can just here say doc, and because this is a dictionary, you can just refer to that full name property in here by saying full name. That's it. That's how you pull that name out of that value, out of this object right here. You can pull all the values, and then if I hit run, now you will see instead of number 4, you will see the first document that is in that collection, and is going to show the full name property of that document. So let's see how that works. So Nupur, you just became famous because your name is full in there. Now, because this is Firebase, and the great thing of Firebase is that it does the changes in real time without you doing anything. Let me show you. If I change this name to another name, let's find another one. For example, like Virendra Jadaf. If I change this and I update it, you see that the value updated in here. You see how cool Firebase is? You can just change it to anything. I'm changing back to my name, and then you update it in Firestore, and you see the changes being reflected in Flutter. That's what I love about Firebase and Flutter, how you leverage the real-time capabilities. This is what's pretty cool about that. So now to wrap it up, I am going to ask everybody, and again, please continue doing this code lab. Try to finish it as much as you can. You're going to learn more about pulling, more about Flutter, more about widgets, pulling data from Firebase as a one-time fetch, pulling data like this one in real time. And you see how I didn't have to do like sockets or do crazy connections. All I needed was just this little bit of code, and I am able to pull data in real time from my application. So with that, let me just show you now, for example, like one exercise that I want to do with all of you. just to wrap it up, and again, like I mentioned, please continue this exercise on your own. Please continue this code lab. I am going to also provide a link to other code labs that I have that if you want to continue learning more about Flutter, more about Firebase, you can do so. So let me ask everybody now. Yeah, we're going to answer all those questions in a minute. Now I'm going to ask something from all of you. Let's all go to one specific step in this code lab. We're going to go to step number 21, where I have the complete code of this application. So let's go to step number 21, where I see where I have the complete code of this application fully complete. And what I'm going to ask from you is to copy all the code that is in step number 21. I am going to scroll all the way down. You copy it like this. You just scroll all the way down. Make sure that you only copy the region in there in the code. So copy, go to step number 21, copy all the code, and go to Darpad. If you don't want to mess up what you did, that's fine. You can open another Darpad. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to copy paste all the code that is on step number 21 and go to Darpad and paste it in there. If you haven't done so, I'm going to give you one minute to do that, and I'm going to run my code. So I'm going to show you now what the application looks like at the end. So you're going to see how the application looks once you finish it. And once you finish it, you're going to have two ways on how to pull the data. I'm gonna show you with my database, but I hope that you guys completed with your own databases. But now you will see the application, how it will look when you finalize it. So you can pull data from multiple collections. You can pull data. You can create other really cool widgets in this code lab. But again, because of the sake of time, we won't be able to complete it. But at least I want to show you this exercise that I want to do with everybody. So please go to step number 21, copy all the code from step 21, and drop it there in Darpad, and then you hit run. When you do that, then you should be able to see, actually, let me just hit run one more time. So after you drop all the code in there and you hit run, you will be able to see the full application being loaded in here. So I think I can just reload in here and then do it again. So I'm gonna run one more time. Yeah, if you get any issues, what you do is just refresh the whole browser, and then you paste the code in there again, and then you run it. So that's exactly, there it is. So that is the full application, how it looks. So you're going to learn how to create list views, add more images, pull information from multiple collections. But what I want everybody to do is here in this page, in the GDG community application that we're building, great. Do we see meet the team? Perfect. That you see there. At the bottom of the screen, there is a little button, like a floating button, that is like a message button. Please, let's all click on that button. There is a blue button at the bottom right of the screen. You click on that button, and this is the page that we were creating. This is a community meter. So you guys, a lot of people already figured out what is it that you need to do. So what I want everybody to do is click that send message button as fast as you can, all of us together. You see how that works. So what I'm doing there is actually sending messages to a collection in Firebase and allowing a lot of people, multiple people to send messages to that application. Let's do it again just so that you can see it one more time. So I am going to delete that collection, and you see now the power of Firebase and Firestore, how it allows for like multiple connections, how responsive it is, and it allows to create really cool applications. Look, I just deleted it, and you saw how immediately you saw it. Now keep tapping, guys. Keep clicking as fast as you can. You see, that is the type of experiences that you can build in Flutter. Very engaging, connecting it to Firebase, Cloudfirestore, and you can do really cool things like that. So let's get to 300. Yes, congratulations, everybody. We did it together. So thank you so much, for sharing, this time with me, for walking with me through this code lab. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys learned a lot about Firebase and Cloudfirestore. and all of that. And with that, I will stop sharing, and I will take some of your questions now. But thank you so much. I will be dropping in the chat some of the workshops that I want you to also explore on your own that I've created. They are, beginner, intermediate, and more advanced ones. Let me just drop the link in there, and I'm gonna answer some of your questions. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm gonna be providing the link to the whole. I think we do have already the code lab in there. Let's provide it again just in case you don't have it. But I've already dropped a couple of links. One for the whole project, for this whole project, also for some other collabs that I want you to do. So let's take some. Yeah, after 300, you saw what happened. Yes. So now let's answer some of your questions. Great, and thank you so much, everyone. So I see, Bavik, you say, is there enough job market for Flutter developers in countries like US and Canada? Yes, Flutter is actually growing in momentum. There is a lot of demand for Flutter developers. So I think this is the best time for you to become a Flutter developer, because Flutter as a framework, there's a lot of big companies that are investing time in Flutter. Even myself, I'm even in my company right now, we're not hiring Flutter developers, but I became a full-time Flutter developer because in my company, I pitched it to my manager. They love the potential of Flutter. So yes, I would say, please go out there, start getting familiar with Flutter. And in no time, I know that you can become, a junior mid-level, and you can get a really good job in Flutter. There's a great momentum. There's a lot of demand for that. So I definitely encourage you to do so. Let's see if you guys have any other questions. Thank you again very much. I love the fact that everybody, was having fun, and you joined me in clicking that button and make it very engaging. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Tanmaya, you say, I do have a certain set of questions related to the coding part. How can I reach you personally? Please follow me on Twitter. You can send me messages through there. Also, you can, let's connect on LinkedIn. I have my LinkedIn profile. You can find me in there. I'm going to provide it also for you guys. If anybody wants to connect with me via LinkedIn, if you have questions about coding and you want to reach out, you have questions about Flutter, please don't hesitate. You can send me messages through there. I'm going to drop also my LinkedIn profile so you guys, we can connect. But please visit my code labs. I'm going to be, I think I also dropped in the chat, in the private chat, my code lab, so you can also learn more on other code labs that I have. So yes. What is the future of Flutter? Yes, Flutter, as you see right now, they've developed the version of desktop. So now you can also build applications in Flutter for desktop. But Flutter now is going beyond that, is going to now be more ubiquitous. So Flutter is supposed to be the future of UI development, because Google is coming up with their Fuchsia or operating system, which is the operating system that will be, on devices like the Google Assistant, home devices, smart devices, the TV, car, everywhere. And Flutter will be the framework to build the UIs for all of those experiences. So you see, Flutter is going to live on. There's going to be a lot of market for that. So if you want to start now, because there's going to be a lot of demand for that type of knowledge. So thank you. Thank you very much. Great. Yes, Shashank, please send me LinkedIn. We can connect. Yes, I will accept everybody because I love expanding my my network. Do you have any tutorials on the block pattern? I am familiar with the block pattern. I am a fan of the block pattern, but I would recommend you looking at some of the tutorials where I'm using the provider pattern. Don't think that because provider is a very simple state management a type of approach is simple, or you don't use it for production. All the applications that I've built are built using the provider pattern, just so that you can see that just because somebody says, oh, the block is not is the best, or MobX or GetX or this or that, don't follow a hype. You are the one who you're building your project. You are the one who knows what's best for your project. And the simpler you make things, instead of over-engineering your application, the better for you, for your team, and for the longevity of your application. So if you take a look at some of my code labs, I'm using the provider pattern, and I'm using that as a simple state management, and my applications are very well architected, to be honest with you. So you can take a look at that. Yeah, I'm familiar with the block. You could definitely use the block, but I am more familiar with the provider pattern, which is a much easier way of managing your state. All you have to do is do it the right way. Great. So yes, if you can continue, please provide the details about the project. There are some of the links in the collab in there, some of the workshops that I have. Thank you very much. Ashwin, I just mentioned about the which state management is better. It's not like one is better than the other. Is that one applies to one type of project and another type of project? Like it applies depending on the project. Like I use the provider pattern because it's the simplest one and it allows you to grow. Like if your application grows, the provider pattern is pretty good. But yeah, you could use the block, you could use MobX, you could use Gdc, you could use any of those. You can even use like Flutter hooks. You can use there's a bunch of other ones out there, but me personally, I use the provider because it's very simple and it allows me to make you can take a look at my workshops. You see that some of them are using the provider pattern, but again, it's not like one is better. It's depending on the type of project. Kotlin multi-platform will replace Flutter to any extent. Like Kotlin multi-platform is a great competitor for because with Kotlin multi-platform, you're able to actually just use Kotlin and then do like multi-platforms in that way. I say that Kotlin multi-platform is just also like the way that Xamarin is in out there, or like Flutter is out there. There's flavors of multiple things for multiple people. So it's whatever, it's better that we have multiple options as opposed to just having one that dominates everybody. Like monopolies are always not good. So that's why Kotlin is going to be there. There's going to be a space for that. The same way that is for Xamarin, the same way that is for React, the same way that is for Flutter. So it's not like Kotlin is gonna like kill Flutter, but there's like a market for that in that particular case. And let's say if you're more an Android developer or Kotlin developer, you feel more drawn to that, you can do that. Great. Tamnashe, yeah, you can actually use this little guy for you as well. Great. What other questions? Let me see if I can go through some of your other questions. What do you say about Velocity X? Again, every day a new thing comes up. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't have strong opinions on a lot of frameworks because if you want to get good at something, and then you proceed to the next one. Do not go with hypes, please. Those of you who are starting your development careers, like try to get good at something and then you can go and pick up the next one. Don't go by what the hype. Like some people hype something, but then they're not the ones that are doing the project. You are the one who's doing the project. You pick what you feel happy about, what makes you productive. Don't just go by whatever somebody tells you, like, oh, do this because whatever you were doing is wrong. You could say, oh, let me take a look at it. But then if I don't like it, I can pick something else. So yes, you can follow advice, but at the end of the day, it's you who pick it. So if I tell you what to pick, I'm not going to tell you what to pick. I'm going to say, pick what you like and what makes your project the best. That's my end on that part. Which is better, Android by Kotlin and Flutter? Okay, you see this logo right here? I am a Flutter GDE. I love Kotlin, but my preference is more Flutter. But if you like Kotlin, hey, much luck to you. Please continue doing that. I love Kotlin. I like the way that Kotlin is using, for example, is pushing Jetpack Compose. Because whenever you do Jetpack Compose, it looks very much like Flutter. It's very declarative. And I like the Kotlin syntax. But I'm more familiar with Flutter. I'm more comfortable with that. So I continue with that. But again, you can have that dual knowledge. That doesn't hurt. Great. Yeah. So people say every time we have to learn is a new code is one of the difficult parts because every update has a change. That is the nature of the beast. That is kind of like it comes with the territory. If you're in this business, you're gonna have to face changes and updates and all that, and you have to keep yourself refreshed. So please keep on going, keep on learning. Again, like I said, I have 10 years in the industry, and I don't stop learning. I continue learning and improving myself. So yes. I am unable to find out society problem, which will sort out through apps. So how to know? I'm not understanding that question very well. Sorry about that, Gurav. Yes. So so let's continue. Which should be preferred Kotlin or Flutter? We already said that. And what do I say about Velocity X? Again, I don't have preference. I don't know every framework. I can tell you that. Like, I don't know Velocity X. I may not be familiar with what you're mentioning. But again, I can tell you other frameworks that I've used. and some frameworks that have are very popular in the industry. For example, like I said, like MobX, Gdc, you could do the provider, you could do the block, you could do MVVM, you could do, there's a bunch out there that you can use, the qubit. You see, like I'm mentioning a bunch of those. But if you're asking me something, I may say, okay, I have not used it. I don't have any opinions on that because I haven't used it. But I say what I've used. For example, the provider, the block, qubit, Gdc, MobX, some of those frameworks I've used. Great. The difference between the stateful widget and stateless widget. Let me repeat it, and thank you for your question, Aswin. So the difference is stateless widgets are just widgets that render once and don't change throughout their lifetimes. A stateless widget maintains its states as a separate class called the state, and then the stateful widget rebuilds, but every time it rebuilds is because the state changes. Every time the state changes, the widget rebuilds, and then you see like a new update. For example, you saw when the little bar was growing, that means I was maintaining a state for example, like the stream builder was actually maintaining the state for me. And then every time a new value came in, the widget rebuilt. So in the case of a stateful widget is a widget that maintains its own state. And when the state changes, it rebuilds, and then you can build interactivity in your widgets so that they can move. You have clicking here, things changing, things moving. So that's the difference between a stateless widget. It doesn't move, it just renders, and a stateful widget changes multiple times throughout its lifetime. Great, thank you so much for your questions. Gaurav, how do you know real world problems which can be solved through apps? Thank you very much. Like you can use, for example, in your everyday life, you can think of things that you can build in Flutter. For example, like myself, I've built already up. I am from the Dominican Republic, originally from the Dominican Republic. I created an application that teaches people about my country and shows you like the most beautiful touristic attractions of the island. And then in that island, you can learn about my country, you can learn about my culture. So I built an application, is already available in the App Store and both for iOS and Android, built in Flutter. It's called Torsy, and you can just download it. Toursy. You just find Torsy, and then that is an application that I built for that. I also built an application for my community, GDG Lawrence, so that people can reach out to us, they can leave questions, they can access resources and all of that. So I build applications to solve problems. I also build Flutter web apps. So I like that because I don't have to go to like a store or anything to publish my application. I can just build a Flutter web app and then I can just host it anywhere, like in GitHub or something like that. The QR for the bird. Yes, let me show you the QR code for the bird. I can share my screen so that you can take a look at that again. Let me give you the QR code for that. Yes, you can. I'm going to share my screen one more time, guys, so that you guys can see it. So that is the QR code for the little bird. You can download. Can you see the? There we go. So you have to download the Snap Camera application. It's available for both Windows and Android, and then you access that lens. You can look it up once you download Snap Camera. You look for I Love Flutter, and then you can use this in your calls. When you're sharing screen, you will see that little guy all the time with you. So yes, I love, again, all those questions. Vaishnavi, you say, can you suggest some websites or sources from where we can start our Flutter journey? Great question. I am going to be sending now one PDF of one presentation that I like to give out about Flutter and the Google Cloud, which has a bunch of resources like even actually this presentation at the end, I'm going to be sharing some of the resources that I have in here that give you like code cookbooks and code labs and stuff like that you can use to learn more Flutter. So I'm going to find that. I'm leaving that in the screen so that you can also again get some of my you can get some of my contacts and whatnot. But yes, I can send you like a PDF where I have like some resources that you can use to do that. Let me just pull it right here. And I just wanted to know whether the team is already ready so that we can do the raffle of the 2 Amazon gift cards for people. So is everybody Yeah, I wanted to sync up with the team. I'm gonna stop sharing. And the organizing team, I just wanted to know whether you guys are ready so that we can do the raffle of the 2 Amazon gift cards, 2 $25 Amazon gift cards for all the attendees. Great. Just wanted to make sure that folks are, again, still online. Perfect. And the team is... Can you guys still hear me? Great. Yes. So yeah, we're gonna be doing the raffle. But if you still have any other questions, please let me know so I can answer some of those questions. And the team can let me know whether we are ready to do the raffle. Yes. The WhatsApp group. I don't have access to the WhatsApp group, but I will drop it in here for the team to put it in the WhatsApp group. So I will just grab the link. This is one of those PDFs for giving you like some of that information. So it's a shared in the... Yes, you can. Okay, so are you gonna send it via email? Perfect. Okay, great. So let me see. You can definitely send it to me, and then I can do the raffle. I'm gonna be sending the emails to those people who win. I just need at least the emails of those who win. So I can either share my screen, I can do like the wheel of names, but I wanted to see. So how do you guys want to do it? Because I wanted to provide that. Or again, if you want to do it later among yourselves, and then and then the team lets me know which are the people who win, then I will send you to those 2 lucky winners. I will provide that. Exactly. Great. Yes, we can do it like that. No problem. Great. I already send a couple of links in there for some PDFs that I have of some resources that you can take a look, and you can find, to learn about Flutter and whatnot. You can learn more about the cloud. You can see some of the things that I did in there, and you can just build your own applications as well. Any other questions from anybody? Some people are asking you for life, but I mean, that's out of my jurisdiction. Is the organizing team, what decides that? But yeah, I'm all up for you guys. But yes, we can do it via link. We can do it via email or whatnot, and then you get notified. Great. Perfect. So any other questions from anybody? Regarding Flutter, again, Firebase and whatnot. I hope, again, you guys had a lot of fun. I hope that some of you were following along and created your own Firebase project. Again, that Firebase project will last you a lifetime. Well, until I don't know what happens, but at least you can use that project for all your applications. You can create multiple collections and whatnot. Make sure that you don't exceed the quotas that you get on Firebase so that you can do that. Flutter architectural patterns. Yes, I don't have a specific like document on that, but if you look at some of the workshops that I do implement some architectural patterns, but I can recommend some links on that. As far as like yes, thank you very much. Yes, yeah, I totally appreciate everybody joining. Again, I hope you guys had a lot of fun. That you guys, the information that we provided, how we walked through it. Again, we made something very simple, but I encourage you to, on your own, explore some of the code labs that I provided. Take a look at some of the documentation that I provided so that you can continue on your Flutter journey and become great developers. Also expand your knowledge on the Google Cloud as well. And yeah, just have a lot of fun in the process. Great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please add me on LinkedIn. Like I said, follow me on Twitter @DRCoders. And yeah, you can, anybody who has any other questions, you can contact me through there. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Again, like I said, like a few years ago, I didn't know anything about Flutter, and I'm so passionate about Flutter that I continue doing it every day. And then I started like building a bunch of stuff, and here I am, a Flutter GDE full-time Flutter developer, a senior architect at my company, and it's because I was really passionate about it. So I hope that all of you guys as well are passionate about coding. In your development careers, I wish you all the luck. Please continue forging ahead and just being passionate about it. Sharing with others. This is the way that we make a better world. By sharing your knowledge with others, by sharing, you learn more and you become better at what you do. So please continue doing that. Yes, I do work at Philips. That is the company. I've actually been to India. I've been to Bangalore a couple of times. I love it there. That's where the Philips headquarters are. So I've been there a couple of times. I've been to Agra. I've been to many places in there. I love it there. I would love to go back one day and even do this in person. It would be awesome. Yes. Wherever where you guys are, I'm pretty sure it's pretty cool. So I love I like all this energy that you guys are providing. Thank you so much. Certificate, we don't give certificates on this again, like I mentioned, but again, all this will be available for you guys to watch it later. Again, all this information is publicly available. All the codelabs and whatnot, you can continue doing that on your own. Yes. But as far as if you're asking if there are certificates about Flutter, there are, maybe I can share with you maybe some codelabs that you can do from Google that then you can get badges. It's something called Cloud Boost Skills. I used to call Quick Labs. Now they call it Cloud Skills Boost, I believe. And then when you do that, the Cloud Skills Boost, there is a Flutter Essentials type of skills that I like to share. I'm actually gonna drop the link in here as well. It's available until May 1st and it's completely free. I'm gonna drop it here in the chat. This one is one of those. It's not a certificate per se, but it's actually some badges that you can get from Google as far as Flutter is concerned. So you can do this, and if you want to learn more about Flutter from Google, you can visit the Cloud Skills Boost, Flutter Essentials, code labs that then you can use, and you can get badges. It's not a certification, but it's a badge. And then that badge, you can share it, you can share it with, on LinkedIn. And then that way it gives you knowledge on Flutter, kind of like the same code labs that you see here. They're free until May 1st. So take advantage of those badges. And then you can, brag about your friends. Look, I got a Flutter badge from Google that I know a little bit of Flutter. And then I can build a simple application and stuff. So you can definitely try those badges that I just shared with you guys so that then you can learn more. So you see, I'm giving you a bunch of resources completely free. Those are free things that you can, but until May 1st, make sure that then you subscribe to those, the Cloud Skills Boost, and then you can get some of those Flutter Essentials badges. Great.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. That was an amazing session. I'm electrified by the way you smoothly went explaining all the concepts. Did our folks really feel the same? Write it out in the comment section. I would like to know. Okay, now that's all about today's session. I hope you guys found it fun, enjoyable, and opened up new extremities for you to explore. Thank you so much, Roman, for your insights. We're extremely delighted listening to your teaching and experience. A huge round of applause to the efforts made by Gdsc Avantika University, Gdsc Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Gdsc Amity University Mumbai, Gdsc Poornima College of Engineering, and Gdsc Indore Institute of Science and Technology. Also, a big thanks to the cheerful audience we got today. Wishing you all fun learning. Thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, Sir Roman.
Sorry for the interruption. Thank you, Roman. I would also like to call upon Nitesh Sharma, who is also a budding developer in our community. And he has also made one app, and he wants to showcase that app in front of all the community. So he will be sharing his screen. So if you guys like it, and you can also fill out the feedback form. So yeah, over to you, Nitesh.
Hello.
Yeah, Nitesh.
So my name is Jitesh, and I'm currently developed an app. So the app is basically Enactor. It's a virtual Damshraj platform. So you can play Damshraj virtually with your friends and family. And I hope everyone knows about Damshraj application when you enact movie names and your friends guess the movie. So it's an application where you can. I am sharing a screen. You can watch and so this is a video walkthrough of our application. So yeah, basically it's a home screen where you can play with random peoples, basically the open groups where you can play with the one of the random peoples that join in and can play with your friends, and you can also play with friends there in your close circle. So when you click on the play with friends feature, you have to create a group, and after creating a group you have to be in a group. You have to invite one of your friends to the room that you have to invite in room. By joining the link, your friend comes in the group, and you have to chance to spin the wheel. When you spin the wheel, you got a movie name from the database. So here is a movie that's Jodha Akbar. So here's my friend who's enacting the movie.
I think, yeah, first word, can you act out? Oh, it's a second word?
So but the person who is enacting the mic is muted from its sides because he's enacting.
First,
And though guess when you guess it right, then you both win coins. This is the app walkthrough video. So I am providing the link of the application in the comment section. So you can all can try it, and hope you like it. And please share your feedback so we can improve the application for further uses. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitesh. It was a wonderful app. I hope the audience will check it out on the Play Store and the platforms there where this is available. Thank you, Roman, and thank you, everyone. Now it's time to end the session.
thank you all. And special thanks to Roman. It was really wonderful to have you today, and your energy, your enthusiasm. Like, I loved it, really.
Thank
Thank
you
you all.
guys. It was such a pleasure being here with you guys. Thank you so much. I definitely enjoyed it. So thank you everybody for joining as well.
Thank you, Roman.